Dear students, I am Santan, working as a physics faculty in Target English Medium School. Today, in this part 2 video, I would like to explain the other celestial objects belonging to our solar system, such as like comets, meteors, meteorites, and finally we discuss the another general topic: what is the artificial satellite and how many types are there, what are the names, and what are the uses of the artificial satellites. So this type of topics mostly we discussed in this part video from the chapter of star and the solar system. So comets means what is the comets? Actually, some of the tiny objects some of the small objects revolving around the sun, revolving around the sun in an highly elliptical orbit. So listen very carefully. Some of the small objects revolving around the sun in an highly elliptical orbits, and that is enough. Some of the small objects revolving around the sun in an highly elliptical orbits, that objects we are called which one? Comets. But when they approaches near to the sun, when they approaches near to the sun, when they approaches near to the sun, one end of the comet appears like a tail. So listen very carefully. So actually, what are the small objects revolving around the sun in an highly elliptical orbit? So generally, some of the comets was found by the scientists, but mainly here scientists will be found one comet. Its time period of revolution is 76 years. Means every 76 years it is appears only one time. It is nothing but so the time taken by the Halley comet to revolve around the sun only for one complete rotation. How much years will be taken? 76 years. That's why. So their orbit is very high or not. Due to that reason, what you can say that some of the small objects revolving around the sun in an highly elliptical orbit, and when they approaches near to the when they approaches near to the sun, one end of the comet appears like a bright tail. Appears like a bright tail. So why this tail is always opposite to the which one? Sunlight. So that's right. So why the bright tail is appears means so the comet will be having some dust and barren. That's why when it will be coming entering near to the sun's atmosphere, at that time what will be happen when the sunlight will be fall on that one. So due to the high intensity of the sunlight, so the dust and barren along carrying along with the comet is appears like a bright shining time. That is what is that one? Comet. Halley comet appears for every 76 years. Previously, it is appeared at which year? 1986 year. So again, it is appears 2062 year. Listen very carefully. So Halley comet time period of revolution is 76 years. Is nothing but for every 76 years. So what is appeared? Halley comet will be appeared to us. But previously, at what year it is appeared means in 1986 this comet is appeared to us. But again, when it is appeared 2062. Next one is meteors. Meteor. Some tiny objects occasionally enter into the some tiny objects occasionally enter into the Earth's surface and completely burn before reaches to the Earth's surface. Listen here. Some of the tiny objects, sometimes you are observing that in our daily life. Some of the star-like objects will be coming towards the Earth. So means some of tiny objects occasionally, means not continuously, occasionally enter into the Earth atmosphere, but before reaching to the Earth atmosphere, they completely vanish by burning due to the Earth atmosphere. We know that. So the small tiny objects will be enter into the Earth atmosphere with a higher velocity because of, you know that. If the object will become close to the surface of the Earth, its speed is gradually increases. That's why already it is in the motion, but when it is entered into the Earth atmosphere, it is highly so pulled by the Earth gravitational force. That's why the small tiny objects will be comes with a higher velocity in the Earth atmosphere. At that time, in the Earth atmosphere, what is present? Air. So due to the air frictional force, it catches to the fire, and before it reaches to the Earth, it will be completely burned. That's why you are observing that a star, an illuminated star-like object coming from the sky, and before it reaches to the Earth, it is a disappear. Why disappear? It is completely burned in the Earth atmosphere by the which force? Air frictional force. meteorites. Some of meteor enter into the Earth's surface. Some of meteors enter into the Earth's surface before vanish and create larger craters. So listen very carefully. So meteors means you know that very clearly. Tiny objects occasionally enter into the Earth atmosphere, but before reaches to the Earth, due to the air frictional force, they catches to the fire and burn completely. That's why further they are not reaches. But some of the times you are observing that some of the meteors are okay. So before completely vanish, means before completely burn, they reaches to the Earth atmosphere. When they will fastly come and touch to the Earth atmosphere, Earth surface, then what will be happen on the Earth surface? Where it will be hit the Earth surface, it will be forms a large crater. This type of things you are observing in California, New York, and some areas still now also we are observing that this type of craters on the Earth surface because of only meteors. Artificial satellites. Generally, two types of satellites are there. One is natural satellite, another one is artificial satellites. Natural satellite is nothing but without man-made, already present in the nature, is nothing but moon is one of the natural satellite to the Earth. But artificial means the satellites was made by the scientists or humans, and they revolving around the Earth in a particular orbit. That satellites we are called artificial satellites. Okay, how many artificial satellites are there means? So artificial satellites are two types. They are, first one is polar satellites. Second one, geostationary satellites. So artificial satellite, further how many types are there? Two types, polar satellites and second one is geostationary satellite. Which satellites we are called polar and which one we are called geostationary? I will explain it in this time. Listen very carefully. The satellites whose orbital plane, the satellite whose orbital plane is perpendicular to the equatorial line of the Earth, is that satellites we are called polar satellites. Is nothing but okay, or okay, the satellite whose time period of revolution is nearly 100 minutes. That satellites we are called polar satellites. Listen very carefully. We can define the two ways polar satellite. First way is the exact definition. The satellites whose orbital plane is perpendicular to the equatorial plane of the Earth is called polar satellite. Is nothing but, so it is the Earth. For the Earth, okay, so it is the which one? Equatorial line is there. For the equatorial line, so which one? Which one polar satellites are revolving in which direction? For the equatorial line of the earth, the satellites are revolving in which direction? Perpendicular direction. That satellites we are called polar satellite. But what about the geostationary? Geostationary satellites are revolving around the earth, okay, parallel to the which one? Equatorial line. It is parallel, it is the perpendicular one. But another definition is there for this one. What is that one? So the satellites whose time period of revolution around the earth is nearly 100 minutes, that satellites we are called polar satellites. Is nothing but, so polar satellites will be, okay, to complete one rotation around the earth, okay, in how many minutes? Only 100 minutes. Means here polar satellite is the starting polar satellite. It will be, okay, revolving around the earth in a particular orbit perpendicular to the equatorial line. Again come to the same initial position. For this one, it will takes how much time? Only 100 minutes only. Means for every 100 minutes, it is complete one rotation around the earth. That's why in a day, how many times it is rotated? Number of times it is covered the earth. That is one is it. But generally, polar satellite revolve around the earth at lower altitudes, okay, between 500 kilometers to 800 kilometers. 500 kilometers to 800 kilometers. Between 5 to 800 kilometers. Listen very carefully. Above the earth's surface, okay, from 180 kilometers to 500 kilometers to 800 kilometers. In that particular area of the range from the earth's surface, the satellites will be revolving with higher velocity. And okay, the speed of polar satellites is 3.1 kilometer per second. So we are observing that, okay, what is the speed of the polar satellite means? So polar satellite, when they revolving around earth, their speed is 3.1 kilometers per only 1 second. Means for every 1 second they covered 3.1 kilometers. That's why, so within the 100 minutes they can cover the one rotation around the earth. Next one is geostationary satellites. So when compared to the polar, this is very important to us. Geo means earth, stationary, revolving with the stability. So satellites. The satellites whose time period of revolution is equal to the time period of the earth rotation is called geostationary satellite. Listen very carefully. The satellites whose time period of revolution is nearly equal to the time period of earth rotation. That's why, what is the time period of earth rotation? Means 24 hours. We know that. Means earth is rotated around itself. It takes how much time? 24 hours. Then time period of geostationary satellite is also, what is that one? 24 hours. So what is the time period of the earth rotated around itself? Okay, so that value and the geostationary value both are same. Why? Because of what? Which type of satellites we are called geostationary? Geo means earth. So that's why the satellites whose time period of revolution around earth is equal to rotation of the earth is called what is that one? Geostationary satellites. But the geostationary satellites will be revolving around the earth in a particular orbit parallel to the equatorial line, and their height is means their altitude is 35,800 kilometer to 42,250 kilometers. This is the range of geostationary satellites to revolve around the earth in a particular orbit. This is one is there. So once again you are observing very clearly, polar satellite means the satellites whose time period of revolution is nearly 100 minutes or is called polar satellite, or the satellites whose orbital plane is perpendicular to the equatorial line of the earth or is called polar satellites. The polar satellites altitude from the surface of the earth is 500 kilometers to 800 kilometers. The speed of the polar satellites is 3.1 kilometers per second. Geostationary satellite. The time period of the satellites whose time period of revolution is nearly equal to the time period of earth rotation around its axis is called geostationary satellite. That's why the time period of geostationary satellites is 24 hours, because of this time period and earth rotation period both are same. Okay, so these polar satellites are time period of polar satellites. What is that one? Only 100 minutes. That's one. So the geostationary satellites are revolving around the earth, either the polar or geostationary satellite. They revolve around the earth in high elliptical orbits. So the altitude of the geostationary satellites is 35,800 kilometers to 42,250 kilometers. That is the range of the geostationary. 5 to 800 is the polar satellites. And the last thing is, what are the uses of satellites? Uses of artificial satellite. So, what purpose the scientists will be send the satellite in the above at the surface means we know that in our India, so means entire world, only few satellite launching stations are there, and India is also having the one of the launching station across the world, that is in Sri Harikota, so in Nellore district and the Solurpeta. So means from the launching stations, so the scientists will be send the satellite with help of the rocket to the higher altitude. After reaches the satellite to the higher altitude, the rocket will be release the satellite into the space. When it is releasing the satellite into the space, it will be due certain velocity, that is called orbital velocity. That's why when the satellite is revolving around the earth, so with an orbital velocity, that is 7.8 kilometers. So now what I am saying that means about that one, that is we discussed escape velocity and orbital velocity already. So maybe we discussed it in IIT Olympic level. At that time I will explain clearly for understanding of you in the chapter of gravitation in 9th standard level. But here it is in 8th standard level, no need to that much of information to you, I hope. That's why just I will tell that. So what are the uses of the satellite, that is either polar or geostationary satellite? To knowing the size and shape of the earth, means what is the shape of the earth? Spherical shape, that is what is the size of the earth, that one. And to knowing the weather forecast, or to knowing the forecast changes in the atmosphere for telecommunication purpose, means to transfer the signals for in telecommunication from one country to another country, or from one place to another place on earth. We are using this one. So to know to know the shape and the size of the earth. And second one is in case of telecommunication. Next one is, so what are the minerals are present inside the earth, and what type of natural resources are present inside the earth? This also we are find out that easily with help of which one? Geostationary satellite. And also weather forecast, means forecast changes in the atmosphere. So many things are there. So many uses are there for the artificial satellites. That's why so number of satellites was sent even our India also to the earth. 24.